to the next slide and jump in. So we want to welcome everyone to, back to the last one, please. We want to welcome everyone to the System Innovation Design 101 Part B. Today we've got a 2-hour session where we're going to learn a little bit about systemic design or systems innovation and go through a couple of exercises and groups. Next slide. While I'm thinking of it, want to thank the Incubation Network for supporting us in our efforts through Bangkok Design Week. To get going, I'm going to share a little bit about what Circular Design Lab does. Next slide, please. So we've got several guiding questions that we use to kind of set the stage with everything that we do. These are, how can we foster the sorts of impacts we're seeking, but at a much larger scale than what we've been doing? How might we leverage the skills within our group to make that happen? How can we marry design principles with systems thinking in a way that's accessible to a broad audience? How can we instill confidence in others to test possibilities? And how can we design a program that was intentionally inclusive and open? So these are the guiding questions that we set forth when we began CDL, and that continue to kind of underpin everything that we do. Next slide, please. And so just really quickly, the backstory of this group. 4 of us started out together: Courtney, Jet, Prewa, and I, who are all here for this session. We were all teaching at Thammasat University School of Global Studies in the Social Enterprise program. And we wanted to take some of the skills and experience that we had and try to work together to do something with community. And that basic idea is what eventually evolved into the CDL. Next slide. And so there are 3 things that we've been trying to do with this effort. The first one is to create community. So if this is your first time joining us, welcome. We hope you find this to be of benefit and that you decide to take part in it. Something that I think, at least for me personally, has been really rewarding. It's been a great opportunity to learn and meet people who care about these sorts of things, and the opportunity to work together on stuff. Next slide. The second goal is for us to build capacity for future possibilities. So we're all learning together, teaching what we know, learning from others, and building skills to work on these sorts of big problems at our community level and also at bigger scales. Next slide. And goal number 3, obviously, is to use systemic design to make positive change. So building community, we're learning together, and the goal is to work together and make positive change. Next slide. Tonight's facilitators, well, these were the original facilitators. There's Courtney, Prewa, Poom, Jet, and myself. And we've got a whole host of others that have jumped in to join us. We've got Steph and B, David, I believe Kin, and who am I leaving out? Somebody jump in. I'm sure I'm leaving 1 or 2 others out. Yeah, hopefully I got everyone there. If not, we'll make sure we introduce them in a bit. Next slide. As I noted before, we greatly appreciate Tin's support. And while I'm thinking of it, we're working on a program with them. We don't have it all settled yet, but we're hoping sometime this fall or maybe in the winter to do a pre-incubator program around plastics projects with Tin. So if that's of interest, please do sign up for our either our email newsletter or join our group on Facebook, and you'll get updates about that if that's of interest. Next slide. Nope, I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, so this is exactly what I was just talking about, the pre-incubator program. So the idea is to put together ideas that could then go to prototype from that pre-incubator program. There's some interesting potential funders on the sidelines if we do get that program together, where if you come up with an idea that's interesting, you might be able to get some support. So we'll see where that goes. Next slide. Okay. Boom, is this where I hand off to you, or is this still mine?
I think this is where we hand off to Jet, who is going to give us an introduction to system.
Right. Thanks, Boom. Jet, I'll hand off to you.
Jet, would you like to?
Thanks, Chris. Yep. I'll continue from Chris.
I'll stop sharing my screen so you can share yours, right?
Yeah, okay, yep.
All right.
Okay. So let me start with this. Okay. So hello everyone, Jet here. Thanks for the opportunity. So I just want to share with you a project that Chris and I are working on. Of course, asked me to start the video. Oh, it's not a video actually. Okay, so Chris and I are working on this project. It was sponsored by the Energy Regulatory Commission, working with a creative economy agency. So they want to actually employ design principles and systems thinking in trying to come up with new opportunities to manage waste in some ways. So actually they're an energy regulatory group, but they see the importance in like waste management. And because the electricity generator of Thailand is going on this trying to create incinerator plants to create energy in Thailand. I know it's not ideal, but we work with whatever we can, and it's a great opportunity with this project because they just don't want research, but actually they want prototypes. They wanted the project to be able to be implemented. So how we started out was that we looked at all these different process. So this is basically, we're trying to merge design thinking with systems thinking. So we start with a design challenge. We explore opportunities and see what we can do. And then we work with users. We go in and talk to users and get the insights. And then we look for what opportunity can we create to make it happen. And then we go and create the products and services, and then we test them. I use design thinking in a lot of what I do. So I just don't want to go into it, just to show you. And so we start with what design thinking is. It's a creative approach, and we look at problem solving by understanding human experiences to inspire new possibilities. And so we start with our design challenge. We started with like, how might we design a better waste collection system to be incinerated efficiently and integrated into the community? So we actually went to the incinerator plant, the waste to energy plant, and they sounded really great. They say very little pollution come out from the plant. That remains to be seen. But it was quite interesting to see how things work. And then they also work with the community. They're very closely, tightly knitted with the community. I can send you this later on, like how do we frame the design challenge? I'm not going to go into it. So we came up with like our aim, our objectives, and our goals. So our aim was to understand and initiate behavioral change, but our objective is to create an efficient waste collection system, because we look at we talk to a lot of people, and what they want is like a better and efficient way of waste collection system, which means that it also has to do with waste separation. But our goals is to reduce energy use, improve living conditions, and create new economic models, which is one of some of these principles are embedded with what CDL does. So we look at three things. We look at like usability, technicality, and viability. So these are the things that we wanted to test with whatever we design with the people. So we look at like how to design an easy use waste separation system, collection and treatment system. And our technicality is to reduce waste moisture, because that's how, that's what like the incineration plant wanted, because like before they incinerate, the waste should be drier. And importantly, we want it to be integrated into the community, and we wanted to make it sustainable. But then at first we actually we got the opportunity to went into the community, go into their houses and look for inspiration. We can see we learn a lot from that about how they separate waste and don't separate waste. So they separate waste into two things. economic waste, and others. But some of them actually can manage waste really well. And also we talk to a lot of different types of people, community leaders. If you can see the man on the left in the yellow t-shirt, actually he's a garbage collector. And actually he lives with garbage. Actually, he has a lot of garbage at home, but he knows everything off by heart. He knows what makes money, what doesn't. And then when you go into the community, you learn a lot from communities. Like Chris and I went into this community, and this is how they identify the different types of plastics by using water and salt. And then they can actually gauge the density of the plastic to identify them without having to use any scientific equipment. But what happened was and then COVID hit, so we can't really go into the community anymore. So what we did was we started creating questionnaires. So what we did was we talked to them about like this. We talked to them from everything from like how they view trash, what sort of style of rubbish bin do they like, what sort of rubbish bin do they have at home, and also the methods that we use, or we use telephone interviews, we use online interviews, we use questionnaires as lead into interviews, because we use questionnaires so that we can identify certain types of people, and then we go in further by talking to them, like whether they would be happy to let us interview them. And the other thing that we use is design probes. So we wanted to understand how they deal with waste every day. So we got them to actually take pictures and videos of their how they throw away things. And the way we recruit, we use Facebook to recruit a lot of our participants. We also use convenient sampling from people we know. We talk to the incineration plant so that they refer to us, which is the snowball sampling. So, and snowball is very important because they can point us to so many different other people that we want to learn from. Like if we want to understand about like, oh, is there like a community that recycle waste? And they go, oh, why don't you go there and talk to them? So we learn a lot from that. And this is what we did. Like we gave them we gave them like a weighing machine, so that, and then they take pictures of what they throw away every day. And then they will give us feedback on what they do and why they do it. And we learn a lot from that. So our design opportunity was to create a sustainable community-led integrated waste collection and treatment system. So we started from like the whole system from beginning to end. So we created like, we looked at like the needs. What are some of the needs from the incineration plant need, the target user need, and service operator needs? And then we separate the whole experience into separate collect, await, and deliver. So we look at all this because we want to test all this. And then we look at the whole system, like from the different types of waste. We're planning on using bicycles to collect these waste and actually separate them and then send them to like, you know, the incineration plant, or sell them, or create compost from it. And then this is our first prototype and ideas. And then we used the means of like design scenario to test it with people. And then we started designing the bins, and then look at like how the bins can actually fit in their houses. And then we kind of design how the bike system can pick up the rubbish. And yeah, that's about it. The project is still ongoing. We're at the phase where we're about to go into the community and test the ideas, from like giving them rubbish bins, and then we've already designed the bike, and we're making the trailer, and we're going into the community next weekend, and we're testing it out with like 20 households to see how we were using design probes for them to record what they do on a day-to-day basis and give them some feedback, and give us some feedback so we can understand a bit more about like what they do, because they're a bit careful about us going in because of COVID, and that's probably the best thing that we can do. for now. And then at the end, we'll do like an interview with them about like their whole experience. So yeah, that's just like a short presentation just to see what we can do by using like systems thinking and design thinking together in this kind of COVID environment. Thank you. Back to you, Pum. If anyone has any question, just exactly under 10 minutes.
Splendid, Jet. Thanks a lot for the presentation. Actually, it is 10 minutes. And thanks a lot for showing all the pilot cases, what you're doing. And I think it's really nice and it's really insightful for people who actually want to get their hands on how to solve the problems.
Yep.
And for this workshop, what we're going to do from now on is we're going to take a step back. Everyone take a step back to think about how can we actually learn to understand the problems from a systemic perspective. But before I get into that, hi. My name is Poom, everyone. I forgot to introduce myself. I'm just joined the CDL recently, and surprise, surprise, you guys will, it's actually my honor to be here, to be invited to do this online workshop. I think it's also, you guys should know that it's also my first time doing an online workshop for anybody. So if you're excited about it, you can give it a like, or if you're not excited about it, you just don't give it a like. I don't want to see any bad comments. So anyway, we're gonna get back to what we're doing in the workshop. So in this case, what we're gonna do is, as I already mentioned, is to let everyone learn how to understand the problem from the systemic perspective using a case study, which in this workshop, we decided to go with the plastic packaging waste issues, because as many of you might already know, it is a huge problem globally, and Thailand, unfortunately, we're pretty much in the center of it, because we are the biggest producers of plastic waste in ASEAN region. And let me get back to try to share the screen on trying to show you the problems. Just a second, please. Voila, here we go. Here we go. So Thailand is the biggest producers of plastic waste in ASEAN, right? And every year we actually consume about 2.5 million tons of plastic packaging products. And if you want to know the size of it in terms of magnitude, it's actually the size of 1.5 million cars combined altogether. And for the record, this number is actually dated prior to the pandemic time. So let's imagine how much we actually, how much the number have gone up till now, that most people in Thailand ordering food delivery to be served at home, which come with so much packaging. At the same time, less than 10 of the Thai people in Thai populations actually separate their waste for recycling. It's gonna be even more insane. Things gonna get even more out of hands. And what's more important about this problem is that plastic packaging waste, it's a very complex problem that it's actually very impossible to solve this using what we usually call it a reductionist thinking mindset. For people who don't know what a reductionist thinking mindset is, it's a mindset that all of us, we use it every day in our daily life to solve daily problems. By simplifying the problem that we face with, by breaking them into different parts and easily searching, easily just solve it by fixing just one or two of those parts. A great example of that is, let's say when you're trying to fix a car. If a car broke down, then you would just go take the car to the mechanic shop and let them have a look. And then the mechanic was just focusing on, okay, what are some specific part that is broken? And let's just fix it. Let's say a tire is broken, right? You have a flat tire. He or she can fix the flat tire, and then the car can start functioning again. Now, on the other hand, if we take a look back at the packaging waste, that's looking at the packaging waste crisis, it is much more complex than that. When this problem just become like a global crisis, many people actually, including our country incompetent government, often say that the reason why we're actually having packaging waste is in the oceans because the consumer don't recycle the waste due to the lack of awareness. And let's bring this back to the car. if we want to solve this like as a one part, let's solve the awareness. Would actually this solve the packaging waste problems? Of course not. Let's try to make these things more complicated by asking more questions, yeah? So back to the statement that the packaging waste in the oceans because consumers do not recycle waste due to lack of awareness. I can then just ask more questions to make things even more complicated. Like, is the lack of consumer awareness the only reason why they don't recycle the waste? Probably there are other reasons, like, the disposal point might not be sufficient or available for people to do it. And apart from consumer, who else is currently involved in the success of the waste recovery? Is the consumer only person that, supposed to be responsible for waste collections? Of course not. There are other players at hand. There are players that's in play here. And what's wrong with the current waste collection system and the recycling system? Now that, because consumers do not recycle, what's wrong with the current waste collections? And that who are actually in play in this responsible in this whole waste collection system? Let's say the governments, the municipalities, the business or technology, the R&D development, and so on. There are many other players at hand that influence one another too. And we can even go back to like the beginning of this whole problems, like go back to the packaging waste. Is all packaging waste recyclables? And if not, then why are we, prioritizing having one that's recyclable and then one that is not recyclable? Why is that? Why do we have that? Why are we having that situation? And even why do we have a plastic packaging waste in the first place? Why do we need? What are the key drivers that actually pushing us to consume a lot? The pandemic is part of the situations, right? And now that you see that, you kind of see, you can see that things are getting more and more complicated as you dig deeper to what's the underlying issues of the packaging waste crisis. You're trying to dive down into those key drivers that's embedded behind just the events, of which is people just throwing plastic waste into the oceans. This kind of go back to what I think Chris and Prawa and Courtney discussed in our previous workshop in part A. It's just the iceberg model. We kind of dive down deeper to, the more you go down to the level, you start to see things are very entangled and very interconnected in a way that you cannot just solve one part or another. You need to understand the whole system first to understand where is the point of interventions that would actually create a trickle down effects that is like a leverage point that could shift the system as a whole. And for that reasons, this is a reason why we need to capture the crisis from a systemic perspective. Like in this sessions, you will learn tools, one of the tools that system thinker use to capture the complexity of a problems. And what we will do is we'll focus 70% of our work will be on the doing, not just me, telling you guys what it is, what you're supposed to do. We'll divide you all into groups and we'll do the activity in a platform called Miro, which if one of the CDL team could share the link of the Miro to the Zoom chat, that would be great. So everyone could access to it. And then we'll do the activity as a group. You guys we'll break out into different rooms and we'll let you learn how to read and analyze and generate insight from the tools. Before I get into that, I'll give a brief introductions to what kind of tools we're playing with, and then we can jump onto the Miro platform. So the tools for this workshop today is we're going to learn about the stock and flow analysis. Am I seeing any chat rooms? All right, I'm trying to see this. Okay, Prawa have already put on the link to the Miro. You don't really need to jump into the Miro right away because I'm gonna talk and give an introduction to what is stock and flow analysis first. And for these tools, I just want to ask like a brief questions maybe. Like let's do like an ice-breaking questions about stock and flow analysis, if you're all right with that. I just want to know how many people who have joined us in this workshop here have seen or have used the stock and flow analysis before, have used that to understand the problems. I think everyone have the access to do the heart reactions and a plot of reactions, right? So if you actually have been familiar or used the stock and flow analysis before, would you mind showing me how, given an applaud reactions as a yes? And if not, it's also okay. Don't be ashamed because it's actually quite nerdy and then it's not something that I think everyone should know about stock and flow analysis. You can put a heart reactions. I love you. I'm actually cannot see everyone. So if Chris, how is how does it look like the landscape of the participants?
Got a handful of hearts and a few hands clapping, and a
Okay.
lot of people looking for controls.
All right, I think it's a mix. So that's great. I'll come back to the second question later. I'll just go back to the stock and flow analysis first. So give you like a brief introduction to stock and flow tools analysis. The objective of this tool is to let you understand the physical current state of the targeted material, like, what we're trying to study at. And in this case, which is the plastic packaging in Thailand. And if you kind of relate it back to the iceberg models, the stock and flow analysis only focusing on the physical and maybe like a certain pattern of the physical aspect of this, which is where you kind of look things from the systemic perspective at the events and patterns of behavior, the pattern of things. So this is where the stock and flow analysis dive into. And the common way for us to visualize the stock and flow analysis is called a Sankey diagrams, which is on the right here. I'll explain to you how to read the Sankey again here. So let's say from A, this is where everything's happened. Imagine, what is a good example? Let's say if I drink a water. I kind of feel like this is not a good example, but here we go. Let's say if I drink a water and it's going to my body, right? And the water gotta go somewhere. It's not just gonna push away out of my body. I'm gonna go to the loo, to the water. If I go to do some sport, I must perspire, I must sweat, right? So the amount 100 milliliter of water I drink on the left eventually have to go out somewhere. And let's say number B is going to for perspirations, if I sweat out a lot, or if I go to the toilets, to the restroom, and so on. This is how you read. So everything is go input, everything have to go out in some way. And the sizes, you can see that there is a difference in terms of the thickness of each of these flow coming in and out. It determines the quantity of those flows. So I drink 100 milliliter of water, maybe a certain milliliter will go out because I sweat a lot, and then majority will probably go into the restroom, right? That is pretty much how Sankey works. It lets you track the material flows from the beginning of the journey. Okay, can everyone hear me? Actually, am I lacking out?
We can hear you.
Okay, that's great. Sorry, my mouse just went pause for a second. Now, let's go back before I show you the Sankey diagrams for plastic packaging waste all over Thailand. I just want to ask how much you actually know, as a context wise, how much you know in terms of the plastic packaging waste crisis knowledge. A simple question is, which type loss for plastic bottles and a hard reaction for plastic bags? What's it look like, Chris?
Lots of hearts.
And, didn't have audio for a moment there.
I lost you guys?
Uh,
I think it's just on my end.
yeah, we still can hear you. There's a lot of heart popping out.
You can still hear me, actually. My computer just went pause.
Oh, Poom, can you hear us?
I'm having a bit of a technical issues. Or am I the only one experiencing that?
We can hear you fine.
Oh, really? Okay. So an applause reaction for plastic bottles and a heart reaction for plastic bag if you think they're, the most consumed packagings in Thailand. B, do you see, I couldn't see like the whole reactions of everyone in the rooms. Could you
most of
actually
the
tell me what it looked like?
Yeah, most of the participants shows the heart. Now I'm wondering, can you hear me? Give me Jan Prawar, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Okay. I think it might be just Poom. Yeah, mostly heart. Thank you. Nope.
Hello? Can everyone hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you, but we cannot see you.
We can't see you, but we can hear you.
Okay. I think I'm having a technical issue from my part then. Give me 2 minutes. I'll try to log in again. Sorry.
I think in the meantime, if the participant feel like they have a burning question or anything, they could leave it in the chat room. And maybe when Poom come back, he can answer some of their question if needed. Yeah, if have time, sorry, excuse me.
Okay, sorry for the technical issue here. I think Poom should be back in just a minute, and we'll be going on to the exercise in just a few.
I am back.
Excellent.
It works now?
I'm back.
Yep.
Okay. Wow.
Better.
Lot of hurdles going on here. So let's get started with introduce you with the plastic packaging waste Sankey diagrams then. So before I let you guys jump into the mural activities, I'm just going to give you like a brief descriptions of what you're seeing here. This is the material flow Sankey diagrams for plastic packaging waste in Thailand. And you can see, like I already mentioned how to read this, right? From the left to the right. So from the left, you see like the distributions of how much, what's the amount of plastic polymer and also by each type polymers are being used to consume, used to manufacture the packaging products. And this has also been shown into like as a stack showing a distributed amount, different type of packaging products like bags, bottles, and others, and so on. And if you're going to go back to the question that I asked earlier, you can see that the amount of plastic packaging bags, plastic bags are being consumed much higher, still much higher than the plastic bottles in Thailand. And then you can see like after it's been consumed, what's actually happened to it? Is it being thrown away by it's just thrown away out of the bin, like in the street or in the river, like littering in this orange flows? Or has it been like collected by the public collection services? Or has it been managed at source by household or businesses, say you or me or the offices can decided to separate and clean the waste and take care of, send it for recycling, which is on the right here. And then what happened to what happened to the garbage has been collected? It showed like the significant amount has been going to like only small amount actually been separated by the garbage truck crew and send it for recycling, and this large amount actually go into the waste and to end up in landfill and so on. You start to see how to read this flow. I'll give you the chance to actually, digest this in the activity times. And we can jump onto the mural. And what we'll do in the mural is that we will be doing some exercise. You guys be at with first activities in activity 1 in the mural is every one of you will be sent into a breakout rooms, and which you just follow the number of the breakout room and then go to the room that you're assigned on. So say your breakout room is in room number 3, then you go to room 3. And the facilitator in that room would be Ms. Prawa, where you will be answering 5 questions and one or two special questions. The idea of this first activity is to let you try to familiarize yourself with the stock and flow analysis. So are we ready for it? Okay, B raised his hand. So I think we're ready to go. Now let's start the breakout room. If any of CDL teams could assign create the breakout rooms, that would be very helpful.
Got that.
The facilitator will be the one who lead you on what to do the activities together with you. And then after around 30 minutes, we'll come back to the main room where I'll give like a summary or review the answers to each of these questions. All right.
Home, I think we don't really need 7 groups. Oh, okay. Chris has already organized the.
Got 4 rooms.
Okay.
Right. Okay, cool.
Thanks, Chris.
Hello. Looks like we got a couple people need to get into breakout rooms. I will assign you.
Yeah,
to-
I actually like have problem from group 3, and yeah, I just sign again. Sorry. I was in group of Ajahn Prawa.
Okay, let me
Thank-
move you there. Okay, and is it Chani? Were you in one of the rooms already?
Yeah, I'm sorry that I left from the.
Okay. Do I need to put you in a specific room, or do you just need to join any room? I don't know if you were already in one.
Can I know what are the room? What
Uh,
the difference of the room?
they were all just signed automatically. It's not we weren't put into specific rooms, so I can just put you in to one of the rooms. We're just getting started.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Go. Okay, you should be able to join a room now.
Okay, hi. People are start to move back. They should be here soon. If you have a question regarding to the activities or anything, feel free to drop them in the chat.
Hi, everyone. How's the first exercise? You guys hate me now? Is it too fast? Too early?
Exercise was good. Boom! I was in the middle of talking to my. I was in the middle of complaining about 7-Eleven in my group, wrapping
Good.
bananas.
That could be like the whole workshop again, like complaining about 7-Eleven and the whole
It's a pet peeve for
fundamental
me.
structure.
Nature provides natural packaging for bananas, and then 7-Eleven goes and say, "Oh, we're gonna wrap this natural packaging in a man-made packaging."
Yeah. That is pretty much it. I'm gonna share the screen for you guys can check out the mural. It's all, you can also check Miro as well, but you can also just follow me. That would be easier. We're gonna go back to the exercise at the main room where we'll go through each answer together and check, if you're right or you might miss something and so on. Of course, first off, for the special questions, there is nothing right or wrong question, and there's no, like, you can always just spend like an hour to discuss about it. But for the sake, what we just discussed for like very short minute, I think it's already insightful to let you think beyond what's actually present in this graphic, right? In the Sankey diagrams, to think about things at a deeper level, like the iceberg that we just went through. So let's go for the first questions. I hope that you guys got it all correct, because the 5 questions, they're all the answers are actually located in, you can find that in the diagrams. So the first question is, which type of plastic polymers or plastic packaging are consumed the most? The answer here is the HDPE and plastic bag. You can look at find this answer here. It talks about which type of plastic polymer has been consumed the most, and everything that's been organized is this diagram is quite organized. So it's the highest consumptions usually go at the top. So plastic polymer, this is where like it's the HDPE is being consumed the most, and the packaging products is the type of packaging that's been consumed the most in Thailand. When my colleagues and we made this diagram, we were also quite surprised to see that the amount of plastic packaging bag is quite insane compared to even bottles. And most of them, you can also see that they're not being recycled. So, but this will go to the next question later. First, the second question is, what percentage of the packaging of all the packaging products getting recycled at the end of life? If you want to look where to find the answer in this diagram, we talk about the end of life, right? So you kind of go way to the right here. So what's happening at each packaging once they're being consumed and taken care of, what happened to it at the end of life? So there are multiple ways, things that happen to it. It could be in landfill, which can be separated by a sanitary one or unsanitary ones. Unsanitary ones, those that improper one that didn't follow the standard or with a poor management system. So they have also waste leaked out from the landfill as well into the environment, or they can be open burning. And this open burning happen a lot when you're in islands, when they don't have enough capacities to treat the waste properly, or it could remain on land or leakage to the marine environment, and then eventually some of them will get recycled. To calculate the percentage, what you need to do is you use the recycle, which is the amount of waste being recycled, which is 570 kiloton, divided by the total amount of waste at the end of life, which is 2.5 million tons. And the answer would be around 22.7%. I feel like when I've made this question, I feel like it's a bit nerdy and a bit of mathematics. So I wish that everyone is nerdy as equally, so we can get the answer correct. And I suspect that everyone got it correctly. So question number 3 is 2 types of packagings that got recycled the least, excluding the others, like, all those mixed up category. Here is where you want to look at which type of packaging it is. Here, like plastic bag down to cap rings. which one got recycled the least. And you can look at this pie chart, which it show how much most of the packaging that's being recycled is about 72% is the bottles, while the rest is, while very least it's around like plastic packagings and snack sachets. So like the snack pouch and plastic packaging got recycled the least. As for the question number 4 and question number 5, they're quite interrelated, is which main channels or actors that related responsible to waste separation for recycling. There are 4 of them: scavengers, crew separations, waste picking, and management, because these divert the flow. Instead of going to other end of life, they shift it and send it for recycling. And the only actors that actually managed to recycle the packaging, the plastic bag, is the management at source by the household and the businesses. And the reasons to why they are not being recycled by other actors, I'll get onto that at the special questions, which is, let's start with the first one here. Why does the amount, not everyone has the same special question, right? So this one, actually room number 2 and number 5 will get to that. We have these questions. Why does the amount of waste being separated by the recycling crew, or here by this crew, this part is very low compared to the disposals? And there are multiple answers to this, of course, but what I would just point out as an example is like, there's no waste separation facility in Thailand. There's not a lot. So usually all the waste separations for recycling usually happens on the trucks. And the garbage crew have to, DIY, set up the station themselves on the trucks and try to separate the waste out. And since they don't have a proper place and time to do this, they just prioritize packages that are solid and less contaminated, like bottle. Because when they throw things right now with the current system about public collections, everything just mixed up in the trucks, right? It's in the plastic bags, garbage bag, and they're all mixed up together and they're contaminated. So it's very difficult to clean them out. So for plastic bag, for example, or let's say other capping is still easy. Let's say plastic bag, for example, is very light and it's very low in value for selling it. And now once it got contaminated, they have to clean it first, or else you can't sell it, or you cannot be recycled. So it's very difficult for crew separator to separate other type of waste apart from like the solid bottle in a very short amount of time as well for recycling. And some of the room actually, I see some of the members actually discuss this and go even the deeper level. Like, why does that happen? Is it something like, why is it we have lack of facilities? And is it also lack of the crew separator as well? And then it should come back from the budget from the governments that being allocated, distributed to the municipalities. This is how things got involved, right? So that is the answer for the first question. And the second question is, according to the graph, in the middle of the bottom of this one is difficult, but it's very insightful, I'm telling you, is that according to the graph in the middle of the bottom, the infographic, how much public coverage each province has to increase in the likelihood in order to increase the likelihood of having more waste collected than litter. This is very difficult to understand what I just gibberish about, but each province, right, you want to have, this graph is quite difficult, but it shows you something very interesting. And it's also a policy recommendation that you could use, is that each province here, the graph, the brown one, it shows you the share of waste being collected compared to the share of waste being littered. So let's say you have 100% of waste being dumped in your province. What's the share of waste being collected by the public services, and what's the share of waste being littered to the ground? And it shows almost everywhere on the right here, most of the province on the x-axis here, they have more waste being littered to the ground than actually being collected by the public services. While on the left here, the amount of waste being collected than littered is much, much higher. And what are the factors that related to this as the correlations? Which one of the things that we found was the amount of public collection coverage, which means the amount of service, like in terms of population, let's say 100 people in this province, maybe how many people actually get the access to this public collection services. Not everyone has it. Let's say in this province, Surin has very less than 25% of the population have access to public collection services, while in some other place, like let's say Krabi, had much higher. And you start to see this trend going up. that once you go above the 75%, like if province have public collection coverage, more than 75% of the populations, there's a more likelihood of province actually having more waste being collected than being littered. And that is a huge change systematically. And that kind of tipping point of you can draw the line, like the margin for policy recommendations, is something very beneficial to be made in a municipality level or even a government level. So whoever get this question in the special room, I'm sorry, this is very difficult, but it's very worthwhile to understand and learn about that insight. The third one is there are some waste that are being sent for recycling but ended up being landfilled and littered. Why? And this is quite simple, just that waste littering in the recycling facility, there's still waste still being littered is because some of this recycling facility doesn't have a proper recycling standard for operations. So they don't treat them things properly. So there's a leakage of waste to the natural environment. And also there are some portion of waste that's being sent to landfill again, because now some of the waste are being sent for recycling. Some of them are not even recyclable. So they have to collect them back and then send it for proper landfill. And last but not least, for the special questions, why do grocery bags and snacks bag or sachets not being collected for recycling? I think I already answered the first questions already, like for the grocery bag, it's because it's very low in value and easily contaminated. But for snack bag and sachets, you might have noticed that snack bag, there are multiple layers within the packaging. There's aluminum, there's plastics, everything is got mixed up in there. It's very difficult to separate out for a proper plastic pallet recycling. They actually have to upcycle it to do something, mix it with something to do something creative like a furniture, but that's not really like a full like recycling of materials. So that's pretty much how you go with the special questions. As for the last question in the special question that I assigned to everyone, but it's actually, I'm not going to try to cover this because it'll take too much time. But the idea of letting everyone discuss, like in a better scenario, how would this Sankey diagram look like to you in a better version? Let's say, maybe, of course, the source of the littering, the flow of the litter waste will be decreased, but then how would it divert to? Should it divert it to public collection or should it divert it to management at source? This kind of discussion where it let you think about what the new flow should look like, or even like the plastic packaging consumption, should it be decreased a lot, right? But should we prioritize to decrease some product? For example, let's say the plastic bag, and then how would this flow actually look like in a new ideal state, in a better state? And each room will have different type of imagination or envision, like, each flow will be going up a bit or lower a bit slightly, and by different group of people. And that's why it's really crucial that you use this when you want to imagine like a new visions for the flow, the stock and flow states. You want to do it with different stakeholders so that they could share their opinions and see, like, what's their opinion to this, what their opinion to that. And it's a quite a useful tool for let you bring out those kind of discussion within the team. So that's how that's the end of activity 1. And I know is it a lot? I think it's a lot, but what you could learn from this is you kind of get to familiarize. I hope that you got to familiarize and know how to read the material flow analysis now. Now that you see another like a stock and flow analysis from other case studies, I think you will have no problem to read, like, okay, focus from left to right, what's going on there, what's going on over here, and you're able to produce some certain insight or comments or opinions to the problem based on the diagrams. Before we do that, before we go on to the second activity, which is back to what we conducted in the part A, which is more familiarize ourselves with the iceberg, we'll try to connect the issue of plastic packaging waste and the stock and flow analysis back to iceberg model. Before we do that, I think we should take like a 5-minute breaks for everyone to just cool down after working on this whole complicated questions, and then trying to look at that a diagram that rich of informations. So that have 5-minute breaks, and we'll come back to the activity 2 again. So we'll have let's meet again at 2:27. That's all right?
Yep.
Okay. See you in 5 minutes, guys. Okay. We're going to bring you back to the room. There is a bit of miscommunication there, but before you go into the breakout room, I'm just going to give you an introduction to what we're going to do in this activity 2 first. And then we can jump on to activity 2, and the facilitator will lead you the activities. We still have 1 minute. I actually don't want to talk that much. I don't want to deprive you this privilege of having 1 minute of good times.
Boom, there's a weird echo coming up from your audio.
Is it?
Maybe like a headphone would help.
I get it. I just moved my room, sorry.
No worries. Just remove my cat.
Is it better, B?
Say
Is
something?
it better?
No, but I think it's okay. It's minor.
Huh, interesting. What kind of echo sounds like? Is it my own voice?
It's like a wing sound.
Oh, okay. Actually, that's my air conditioner.
Oh.
At first, I was like, for the past hour, like half an hour, I've been doing this workshop without an aircon and without a fans. And you know how that works in Thailand.
Yes, warm to say the least.
So I'm kind of like sweating,
Yeah.
but we'll wing it. It's 27, guys. So let's get back to our second activities, if that's all right. So before we'll get started with it, let's go back to the slide where I want to just, no, actually, let's go back to Miro. I think that'll be easier. I'll share the screen. Right, I think you guys can see me now. So for the activity number 2, we'll kind of want to take us back to the iceberg models, because now that you actually discussed understand the current state of the plastic packaging waste from the event and pattern level, I think it'll be nice to try to pinpoint focus on one of the specific hotspot or issue within this whole plastic journey, and and figure out, like, what's the underlying factors or key drivers that's causing the events that we are experiencing now. Let's say, for example, what's actually causing the fact that we have a large amount of plastic bags being consumed at the moment. Like, what are the patterns? What are the currents, like a structure? Like, what's happening? Why are we having like a huge amount of plastic bags being consumed? What are the trends that related to the events, and what are the what are the factor or key drivers that really influences the insane amount of plastic bag consumptions, and what are the mental models and value of that led us to in this state, right? So we're going deeper at each point. We can also even talk about, why do we have a large amount of littering? We can dive down to different hotspots. So this hotspot is, why do we have so many littering right now, and then it's not being collected in Thailand? Why is it so? What's causing it? What's the pattern right now? What are the mental models behind it? And as for, you can also even talk about back to plastic bag consumption, but go back here, why most of the plastic bag are not being recycled, and how can we improve the recyclability of the plastic bag, and so on. So each room will be assigned with different problems along this whole journey. So for room number 1 is plastic bag consumptions, and room number 2 will be recycling rate of the plastic bag. Room number 3 is about the waste littering issue, and the room number 4 is the recycling rate of publicly collected waste. So it's talk about why, focus here on the size of the recycling rate of the waste being collected by the public collection services. So each will then dive down to it. The reason why I want to show you dive down, like, in case we don't have enough time to explain this later after this, I just want to point out the objective of why we do this. First, now that we know it's a practice of trying to go deeper, finding the key driver to different point of it. But then even if you look at you focus on different point of the plastic journey, once you go deeper to the system structures or the mental models, you start to see similar key drivers or factors that have been shared across different topics. And that's something that you could make use of it, try to combine them, try to map them, all these issues, instead of separate hotspot, and try to map them all together by sharing those similarities. But before we get into that, let's just work on the activity 2. Now that after we do the iceberg models, I don't think this one is locked. Should have locked it. Yeah. So in activity 2, you just try to list out the key driver of patterns to figure out what to put it in the iceberg models. Our facilitator also familiar with the concept already. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them as well. Once you do that, he also explain what we'll do in activity 2 apart from the iceberg model. It's just first trying to link the aspect of the key driver in terms of, if it's something technological, is it something related to economic aspect, is it something related to the regulations or social behaviors, and so on. More information will be explained by the facilitators, but that's pretty much a brief introduction of the activity 2 so far. So Chris, if you don't mind, we can get started.
Can we add new categories or others?
You can.
Okay.
If you think it's relevant, please do.
Ready for the breakout rooms?
Yes, please.
Here you go.
Chris, is this intentional that we are still remain in the main room?
I'm not sure what happened to you guys, so tell me what room I need to put you in.
I think for me it's room number 1.
Same here, Chris. Room number 1 for me.
Go.
Thank you.
I think I was in room number 4.
Okay. If that's not correct, just let
Yeah, I can-
there's no that move.
Yeah.
Tantira, do I need to put you in a room? You know which room you were in?
Yes, please. But I'm keep switching between 2 rooms. Can I go to the room with Ajahn Prawa? I'm
Sure.
not sure where she is. Yeah, thank you.
I'll put you there. There you go.
Excuse me, Chris.
Yes.
I would like to leave the meeting now because I'm not feeling well, and
Okay.
however, I would like to request for a record as well.
Sure.
Yeah,
The
thank you.
recording will be on YouTube in a few days.
Oh, okay.
We have a
Also,
YouTube for Circular Design Lab. So if
okay, and also the document. Yes, I will email to you whenever
Sure.
I need it.
yeah, if you can email us or message us on Facebook, we can follow up with you with that stuff.
Okay, thank you so much. Good luck.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hello. Hi, everyone. How was activity 2? I feel like the time isn't enough again, but we
Good
never
discussion.
enough time. There's never enough time.
Never is.
So I just went through actually some of what you guys done for each room. I think it's quite interesting. I'm not sure we have time to really share or go through them. As I said, I don't think we have the time. But is there any facilitator who would like to volunteer on sharing what you guys discussed or shared in the room? I think other people can tap in and listen and see what they share in similarities, like what kind of driver that they also see, like this type of aspects is also what I think it related to ours. Is there anyone who would like to share it, like Ken, Prawa, or David?
Yeah, I can just share very quickly. I think what we talked a lot about is more about mindsets. Like, because things like there's no link between like, you know, our actions and the environment. Like we don't see our impact of what we do and how we throw things out, and so it led to kind of like there's a disconnection between us and the environment. So we don't see the impact until we kind of see like an ad that you see a turtle being caught in one of those plastic things that hold the beer cans, you know, and you feel that impact. And you know, like we talked about, I think one of the cases that people do things because of fear. If the authority said that if you don't do this, we'll come and we'll book you, then people will do it. And sometimes like people don't have sense of belonging. They don't feel that, okay, this is not my village, this is not my muban. So I'm in the next village, I can throw whatever I want because it's not me. It's not part of where I live. So there's no sense of belonging. So I think it's kind of go back to like we have this disconnection between us and the environment and anything in between us. And like, you know, sporadic littering is subconscious. You know, people just throw things without thinking. You know, if I want to put it here or leave it, you know, you see like a pile of rubbish, you just leave it there because, you know, it's such a small thing. You know, no one's going to do anything to us. So I think that's kind of what we spend most of the time thinking. A lot of us talking about like our mindsets and our behavior about like what we do with rubbish. Because
which room are you at? Which room were you at, Jet?
We're at Prewa's one, the one that says waste.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And when you talk about the waste littering, I think it's also kind of, okay, let me get back to what you first throw into for your opinions, the mindset. I think this is where I think everyone for a different room, which have agree in common, like they share similarity of the ecocentric of the mindset, because this is where it all connected, right? Because there's certain mindset that really entrenched within the individual of human in our countries, and then it's kind of straight out into policy-wise, into regulations or economic models, or how we behave as a consumers, that really what's kind of connected all these aspects together, no matter where you're focusing on plastic bag consumptions or the recyclability of the plastic bags, or even the waste littering, or how to increase the recyclability of recycling rates of public waste collections. So this is where it all connected. But then when you spread out, you start to see in a structured level, there's also similarity in terms of the aspect where I think when I went through the rooms, I see like people talk about the incentives in terms of the mechanism, like financial mechanism that support this. Let's say for the plastic bag consumption, we're talking about that plastic bag. One of the reasons why we consume a lot is I think everyone is opportunist. We want things for convenience, right? Especially we don't care about we don't see the connection of what happened. We don't care about environment. We kind of exclude those externality. Then if there is no the mindset that we exclude those externality when we make plastic very cheap and accessible to everyone, in most cases, especially the more dire situation like the pandemic we have, the more chance that we're going to consume plastic bag. Even if I recycle plastic bag, I sometimes I feel more like, because it's so accessible, and so sometimes it's just like almost even force feeding this plastic bag into my hand. I kind of already have those plastic bag into account. It's so easy for us there's no policy-wise or financial mechanism-wise that could disincentivize those functions, what do we call it, the qualities of having accessible plastic bags and also cheap plastic bags as well. I also feel like in terms of littering, you can also talk about the technological or infrastructure level aspect of it. Now that, because people will definitely throw into the ground, right? But we can also talk about why people throw into the ground. Would it having like, more disposal point, or what is lacking in terms of infrastructure that could prevent people from trying to follow that mindset that it's for the sake of convenience, I'm just going to throw it to the ground. What type of infrastructure that could be there to prevent that, in terms of it could be about the disposal part, or it could be the collection part. Who should be involved in order to making sure that, if people are now with if we don't change the mindset for a moment right now, how can we make sure that the waste litter can be recovered, or people will throw away waste properly? And then we can then dive on later on how can we change those mindset as well, of course. Anyone has any questions or anything to share to the main rooms of what they did?
I just have a thought based on what you were just talking, if I may.
Yes, please.
Just thinking about both system and mindset in terms of incentives are the system to reduce waste and plastic, especially, and increase recycling is just if you look at the manufacturers, the companies that are producing the waste, they have a make waste mindset, right? It's a linear process. They don't have a circular mindset. And why is that? Because there's no product stewardship type of business mentality or policy, right? So it's an externality. If once I sold my product, I have no responsibility for that product anymore. So I think that's part of the solution to the system, is that the manufacturers or the retailers have to be involved in the system of recycling.
Yeah.
I mean, they have some financing to help fund it, to supplement budgets. They also probably have a better technological know-how how to close the loop if they just had the incentive and the mindset to do so. And they really have a mindset of product stewardship and responsibility, and basically a circular mindset rather than this linear mindset, I think.
Yeah, I mean, what you covered there, thanks, Robert. What you covered is, I think, is extending of the producer responsibility. That's not just producing things into the economic system, right? But also taking care of what they put there into the system and then taking it back. They're supposed to be more responsible to that. And fun fact is that what the whole point of this graphic that made by WF in that report, the whole point of the report is to figure out them, apart from showing the current state, is to suggest what type of scheme we could come up for Thailand in terms of creating extended producer responsibility models. So how could we involve? Could you totally right. It's, if you're looking back at it, like the managing plastic manufacturers, or those who use packagings, they're the one who try to inject this material into the economic systems. I mean, we as a consumer, we didn't have the choice to whether we want it or not. We kind of like perceive demand, like, okay, they perceive that this is what we want. So the producer would just try to make it more convenient and throw it into the economic system. But there's no consequences of making that choices. They're not being responsible to what's been out there. And that's the whole point here, is like, if we're able to make more engagement or collaborate with the producers, where they have to be able to share some responsibility by, let's say, collecting fees for every packaging or weight in terms of mass that you're using, and then collect those fees to allocate it to a certain nonprofit organization that's kind of like a center between the government initiative or the informal waste collector initiative, and create like a campaign that could create a better system that could incentivize, and it would solve different issues along the journey. Because, let's say, for people who want to improve the recycling rate of the collection services, then they have more budget being allocated to improve more disposal point, or improve the disposal qualities, or reducing the manual separations and so on, or even for not just the collection, there's also for the recycling sector. How could they get some funding to improve that? Or what kind of campaign that we could educate the consumer to, about not just in terms of awareness, but also being egocentric, also trying to, in what way can we change their behaviors? And that's kind of interrelated combinations of combining the collaboration between different stakeholders, and also including the stakeholder that had never been put into the hat of responsibility, which is the manufacturers before. How we need to combine them together, and that's the whole point of the extended producer responsibility schemes. So thank you for sharing that out. Does anyone share in terms of anything else to share? I'm also going through some of the the slide, I'm also see a lot of similarity in terms of the lack of incentives, the lack of regulations, change of mindsets, and also in the trend and pattern is quite different because they have different issues to do. But this what I just mentioned about the lack of subsidies and incentive and so on, it's really crucial, and it's something that all share in similarity. Because if you trace back who's about, like I say, incentive or subsidies, does it go back to the government, or who's supposed to be responsible for financing or subsidizing that money? And that's something that once you try to do, now that we do things separately, but you saw some similarity to that, how can we connect that into one big pictures? And there's another tools that you could, that in the future that I hope CDL could organize it again and teach, that could combine all these different part aspect that we have dealt with for a different journey along the plastic. Is, let's say we used the causal loop analysis, so the causal relationship diagram, to connect things together by sharing those similarity. You see, like, this is like this is a different tools, but show the causal loop by connecting different aspect that we just point out on the consumption side, on the recycling side, on the, no, sorry, the recycling side, on the waste collection side. How that we connect them, and how is it related to the government assigned budget, how they collected to the regulation and so on. You see, share those aspects together. And these are other tools for us to use later in the future to combine them into one big picture. It's like a mapping of the system. But it will not be discussed today because we don't have the time. But if you're interested, we can also cover this tools again in the future. And that is pretty much the conclusions of what I've just did for our activity for the case studies. Chris, would you like, or I think Prawa could pick on to related to what I just did today, is I think Jed can explain on how to go down to like the implementation or the designing on finding out solutions or finding out the problem into the field visit. And I kind of take a step back and looking at how can we try to understand the problem from a systemic perspective, right? But next step of once that we understand the problem from a systemic perspective, you want to go down to the field now to validate whether what the insight you have gathered here is actually true. And if it is, what type of, explore more the contextual issues or underlying key driver that has not been explored through the iceberg models or through the material flow analysis. And then to understand more about it. And then also, sorry, there's a phone come in. Okay, so then use that. Next thing you need to do is you go down to the ground and try to listen to people. And this is where I want to give the floor to Prawa, to what type of tools or mindset that you should need to consider when you go down to the grounds and grab sense of what's really out there in the field.
Poom, I do notice we already ran out of time. I think you have covered some very important point about validating your assumptions. So the first step is that you be aware of what we have discussed here. Very interestingly, could be assumptions. So validate that through the field work. Maybe could you share the slide? I think also Chris has some.
Yeah, I could share the slide. Wait a second. Here you go. Is it the one?
Yeah. Well, yeah, just so connect to people, observe, talk to people, listening deeply. So go there with kind of an open mind, open heart mindset. And also you can alternatively bring people who represent systems in the room, like the key actors, government, stakeholders, way speakers. So identify who are actually, influencing or are affected by the problems. Also, we are, next slide, please. So today is about understanding the complex problem. And afterwards, system design is about also creating intervention that actually solve the complex problem and finally achieve the systemic change. So usually after this phase where we try to understand deeply what are the causes, what are the underlying and root causes of the complex system, and then we move to the system intervention in which, next please. Next slide, please. So back. Yeah. So in the system intervention, we reimagine the system. What could be different? You actually get to reimagine a little bit today by looking at the Sankey diagram, what could be different. But you can also do it more and seeing more interconnection. And also afterwards identifying leverage point, what is the strategic place in the system to intervene and actually yield large impact in the system. And then co-create interventions, bringing various stakeholders, various experts and players that are really involved in the process, in the system together, and then come up with some of the interventions and then experiment that in the real context. This is where you actually know how the system going to respond. But usually we do it in a more, we call it's a safe place to experiment. So we kind of limit the risk of testing. And then implementation, tell stories, scaling impact, and ultimately we want to achieve system change. So over to you, Chris.
Thanks, Prewa. Next slide, Poom. So thank you all for sticking around. Sorry we ran a little bit over here. We do have a couple more events next month. We have a meet and greet on driving systems change during and after the pandemic, and then a panel discussion around the circular economy. We hope you guys enjoyed it. I was fortunate to be able to jump through and all the different rooms and listen to a bit of the discussion in each of them, and there was great discussion in each of those rooms. So hope to see everyone come back and take part in future stuff. For the next couple of months, we'll probably continue to have online workshops like this and look towards the time when we'll be able to safely be able to come back together and start looking to start implementing projects again. So thank you all for taking part. Thank you to Tin for your support, and look forward to seeing you guys again. Poom, thank you very much for all of your hard work putting this together. This was a really great session. So
I hope it was beneficial for everyone, guys.
Fantastic.
And last point, your feedback can help us do better, and it can also help Poom as well, since this is his first online workshop. So in the chat box, I put in the link to Mentimeter. So if all the participants have some time, it would be great if you could fill in some of the feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and should we close the meeting, Chris?
Yep. I'm going to go ahead and shut her down. Everyone have a great day.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Everyone.
Have a good
Thank
week.
you. It was great. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.